Welcome back for another video. I'm Eharbad, a free-to-play endgame player in Raid Shadow Legends. I have mentioned previously that I'm going to try and get some Auto 21 videos out. So looking at the teams that I use to farm stage 21. And I think in the video I'll also try and look at some kind of swaps or give you guys some ideas on how you might construct your own team using the champions you have. So first off, this is the team that I'm currently using in stage 21. It does work on stage 20 as well, but the reality is I farm stage 21 with it every time that the faction is open. People have asked why farm stage 21 when stage 20 has the same drop rate for glyphs. It does, but stage 21 gives you more forged materials. So that's why I farm stage 21 on a daily basis, at least on the factions that I have a quick enough team for it, which, to be honest, is all of them except for Night Revs is a bit slow, but it's still not that bad, particularly with Super 8. Right, so I'm not going to use Super 8 right now because I want to be able to run this a few times. So at least having 4 runs, I can show how this team operates 2 times, and then we can change it and see what else happens. So the general concept here is that Visix is going to be the main form of crowd control. So she opens with Provoke on wave 1. We then obviously have decreased defense from Ghostborn, and we have good AoE damage from the Cold Hearts. On wave 2, we managed to have Visix fast enough that we'll go twice. We'll open with the decreased speed, and then we'll get the Provoke out. We'll then cycle back round. We'll get the AoE damage again coming from the Cold Hearts. And essentially, even if we end up in a situation where one of the Valkyries do take a turn, shouldn't happen, but this team will still get through. The thing to remember as well on these kind of Auto 21 teams is you don't need to 3-star. You just need to get the win. Like it doesn't matter if you have 1 champion alive or 5. Like it really doesn't matter. So you just want it to be as quick as possible. So you sacrifice some sustainability, some support for damage. That said, here we've got Dark Hail, who I use in Ice Golem, who can solo Ice Golem boss itself. He can easily solo this boss. And then you've got 2 Cold Hearts, bring in the Heart Seekers. You've got Visix for control, you've got Ghostborn for decreased defense, and it's just quick. Like, it could be quicker if I had one of the top tier AoE nukers, but I don't. Could probably replace one of the Cold Hearts with that. There are other ways of approaching this, but for me, with the champions I have, and specifically the champions I have built, I'm able to reuse champions that I use elsewhere and do it in a quick time. I actually just got a new fastest time of 1 minute 29. I'll just run it one more time so you guys see that it's not a fluke. And then what we'll try and do is say, well, okay, not everyone has a Ghostborn, for instance, so let's maybe try and swap that out. I think once you're at a stage where you're looking to auto stage 21s, you probably do have 1 or 2 Cold Hearts. You definitely will. I'm pretty confident have Visix by then, and Dark Hail is probably not too far away. So we'll probably try and keep that core of 1 Cold Heart, Visix, and the Dark Hail. But we'll look at swapping out the Ghostborn and the second Cold Heart and see what else we can do. Good champions for control would be something like a Sylar, but I think we can probably get away with not using that. Lydia also is great because of the strength and keeps your team alive more easily. The problem with the Lydia is boosting turn meter for the Valkyries. So we need to be kind of careful about how we do that. Madame can, of course, strip. the Valkyries. So that's like another approach to take for that kind of decreased defense champion. But I think what we'll probably try and do is do it with Lydia, because I think once you get to the point where you're looking to auto stage 21s, you're probably finishing or have finished Faction Wars. So I think it would be fair to show a team with Lydia in place. Slight problem that I've got presets everywhere. What one can I destroy? So this one, let's get rid of that one. So what did we say we were going to do? We'll build it around Visix. I said we'd use Lydia, would use one Cold Heart. Maybe throw in a Painkeeper. And then Dark Kael. So in this instance, I want to open here and only use it once. Gives us a better chance of coming back to it. I won't use that. I want to actually open with the Provoke there. So if I want to make sure I have it, I'm not going to use it there. So open with the Provoke. In round 2, I'm not going to open with Siren's Wail. I'll open round 1 with Siren's Wail. So the concept here is I don't want to boost the turn meters of the Valks until I have the Provoke out. And since Lydia is faster than Visix, I think we'll have to do it this way around. That makes sense. I'd say we can just turn off the A3, keep the A3 there. Cold Heart, don't want him to use Heartseeker. Rather get the TM drop from the A1 and the AoE damage from the A2. And then in terms of Painkeeper, let's open like that. And here we'll open Combat Tactics. Now this might need to be changed. The way I typically end up optimizing these teams is I'll put something that I think will make sense. I'll run it, watch it, see what works, see what doesn't, and then finesse it. So we'll go through and show the AI overrides I have on the existing team afterwards. Let's see how this works. So we get the decreased defense weaken, get the AoE hits, damage across the board. My hope is that we kill pretty much everyone before they take a turn. And hopefully Black Knight actually takes a turn, otherwise we've got a slight problem, because Visix is going to keep his turn meter down. That's a good example of we don't want that, because we're going to end up stuck in a loop. So how can we stop that? So the best way of stopping that is that we open single combat. We don't decrease their speed. So Visix goes, Lydia goes, and then what we'll actually do is ask Painkeeper to open with the A2, cycle back, and then use the A3. We don't need to have that set. That should work fine. We'll run it again. And there ends up being a bit of this iterative process. You generally can have a good idea of what will likely work, but you probably will have to run it and adjust it. What we're really looking for here is this Black Knight really needs to take a turn. does, but it's still a bit tight, so I would be a little bit concerned. So we get the provoke out, boost the turn meter, get the decreased defense out. Get the decreased speed. Get another reset from Painkeeper. Get the provoke out again. So far, this looks decent. 1 minute onto the boss, so it's not going to be as quick, but for a team that is relatively accessible, and obviously, again, champions can be swapped based on what you have in your roster. I think this is a fairly straightforward auto comp that should be pretty consistent. I would be confident that this would be consistent. My only issue, like I said, is maybe the Black Knight on the first wave. And if that is a problem, you can always swap Lydia to be Madame Cerise. Then you'll have a way of stripping. Or you can run Rian the Conjurer. It'd be another example of someone who has a buff strip. Anyway, 2 minutes, 5 seconds. Not terrible. Right, so the nice thing about this setup is obviously we use a rare with fighting a boss. So you whatever the daily quests are, this team will satisfy the requirements. If I show you the AI overrides that I have Visix opening with single combat on round 1, not using Sinister Allies. And on round 2, ideally, if single combat's available, should open with that. And it should be available, but if it isn't, then Sinister Allies will come first, and we hopefully will cycle back anyway. And then against the boss, I actually have single combat turned off. And then Ghostborn open with the A3, and then A2 and A3 turned off. Again, open with the A3, but also using it on auto because it might not be available. A2 turned off, and A2 turned off. Really, I just want always applying the decreased defense. And the fact that Ghostborn brings this increased attack does help because it means the Cold Hearts hit harder. Dark Kael, basically opening with the A1 on round 2, but otherwise there are no presets beyond that. Old Heart, Heartseeker turned off throughout, except for on the boss. Art of Pain, open with, but do not use if we cycle back. Use as much as you want in round 2. And if it's available, open on the boss stage whilst we have the ads up with Art of Pain, but then don't use it thereafter. This is a reflex Cold Heart, so disabling the A2 means I should get back to the Heartseeker faster. And then on this Cold Heart, which is a stun set Cold Heart that I use in attack secret rooms, similar Art of Pain open with, turned off, then Heartseeker turned off, use Art of Pain freely, and then open with Art of Pain, but it's not turned off on the boss on this one because it doesn't matter, not a reflex champion. So that's the AI overrides I have on the team there. And then we've just gone through and built this team together. So we'll just run it one more time, see that it works again. Like I said, my only concern with this team here that I've built with the Lydia giving us the increased speed is whether Black Knight takes that turn to use the unkillable buff. That's kind of the only concern. But I think based on having run it twice with the speeds that I'm running, it looks like it won't really be a problem. We then get the provoke out there from Visix. Obviously, if you do miss provokes, things can go wrong, which will mean that the run will take a bit longer. But I do think that with this team here, with the healing from Painkeeper, the strengthen from Lydia, the ally protection from Visix, etc., and the decreased attack, decreased defense, you've got so much mitigation on the team that even if something goes wrong, the Valkyries take a turn or the Warcaster takes a turn, they took a turn. I think it'll be fine anyway. Like, it's not really, it'll just slow us down a bit, but I don't think it will cause us to fail. In any case, Faction Wars isn't a part of the game where you're using resources that cost anything. So if you had a 90% successful team, it's not really a problem. But obviously we want 100% because we want these things to be quick and painless. Anyway, let's see how the time is on this particular run. Last one we did was just over 2 minutes, so it'd be nice if we could beat that 2-minute threshold with this budget, inverted commas, auto team. I do think it's for an auto 21 team, it's fairly budget, but I appreciate that it's not a strictly budget team. Hopefully it'll give you guys ideas on how you can build your own auto comp based around Visix as the hard carry, in much the same way when I did the budget team itself. Visix was the hard carry. I think she'll do a nice job for an auto comp as well. Didn't break the 2-minute mark, but it's not too bad, and gets the job done, right? Just use these last 2 keys, and obviously it doesn't just work on a boss stage, it will work fine on any stage, to be honest. Yeah, so I know it's a bit of a niche video, and the number of people in the game that are currently looking to auto farm stage 21s on Faction Wars isn't the biggest number, but there also isn't really any content out there about it. So I hope that it's of interest to you guys, and I hope that you find it useful. I will look to get videos out for each faction in terms of how I auto 21, and also try and give some hints and tips about how I would look at constructing a more accessible version, or just even give some ideas on some alternative ways of building an auto 21 team. So at least you can get those extra CVC points, and if you have the time, get the extra forge materials as well. So I realized as I was just editing the video that I didn't actually show the champion builds, so let's just quickly go through them. Visix here I have quite quick, around 250 speed with high accuracy. The accuracy is actually built for other content. I've used Visix in Scarab as a showcase there, and I've tried to use her I've tried to create an auto comp for Dark Fae using Visix as a kind of a budget auto comp for Dark Fae, but it's I can't get it quite 100% yet. Like, it's pretty inconsistent when I was trying it. But next time Dark Fae is around, I maybe will have a bit more time to tinker. But you don't need this level of accuracy for that. I do like running Visix fast. I think having her quick is really good for the Faction War auto comp. I also think it's really strong for Hydra if you're using Visix in Hydra. So I do think the speed is important, and if you can get a bit of damage into her kit, that is good too. In terms of masteries, I have moved mine out of Helm Smasher into War Master. I do intend to do some videos in Hydra showing Visix there in Brutal Hydra, so that will eventually happen. And in terms of the support masteries here, I've gone down to Master Hexer for a longer decreased speed. I've kept Evil Eye for use in all those kind of turn meter areas. Visix can be really strong in Fire Knight, in Dark Fae, in Scarab, etc. So I quite like this overall build. I've got a couple of points that are left unspent. And once I've tinkered around with Isix a bit more and thought more about what gear set will be optimum for, say, for Hydra, etc., we might then spend the rest of those points, but this is a good starting point. Skills are obviously booked. Then Lydia, I've actually re-geared my Lydia recently into a regen set for some other content that not required for this faction war team, but she is reasonably quick, high accuracy. It's kind of a hybrid Lydia build. Skills are done. Masteries, mine is currently in War Master, but I will actually probably be changing her out of it, as I don't actually like her in War Master, but that is how it is currently. We did not use Vizier. Ghostborn, I currently use him only in some speed dungeon farming, so he is in a shield set. Quite quick, more accuracy than required. I mean, his A3 doesn't need any accuracy, but his A1 does. And then I've tried to keep his survivability reasonably low, so he does die in those speed comps. At some point, I'm probably actually going to put him in Stone Skin and have him as an option for Arena. But I do need to keep him reasonably quick for the other content, and I'll have to think about having a different shield champion for those runs. And in terms of masteries, I haven't actually finished them, but I think I was intending on going down to War Master. But I'll probably, like I said, if I end up using him in Arena, I'll probably change those masteries as well. So this is a very kind of niche build that I use in Ice Golem 24, Dragon, and Faction Wars. Then we didn't use Madame. Dark Kale I have for Ice Golem 24 and 25 boss farming. In terms of stats, we've got high effective HP. I'd actually prefer to have less attack than this, but the gear that I have, I ended up with more attack than I'd like. Speed 250, pretty quick. I think anything above 240 is a good target to have. And then I've got enough resistance for Ice Golem and enough accuracy for the dungeons and for Faction War Stage 21. The skills are done. And in terms of masteries, I've gone down to Oppressor. Again, we've got a few points that are unspent. I haven't quite figured out what the optimum path for those last few points are. But this overall starting point, I'm happy with that. Cold Heart 1, my Reflex Cold Heart. If we look at total stats, I've tried to get a decent HP pool, not too slow, 70% crit, high crit damage, and enough accuracy for Dark Fae. I'd probably like a fraction more on the accuracy side of things. Actually currently got this Cold Heart in an HP banner, as I really wanted to try and keep that HP level higher for the way my spider team works out. But there's a lot of like flexibility in terms of how you do the build. But that's what worked for me. Blessings not set, skills are done. In terms of masteries, I've actually gone down to Giant Slayer. I use her in Fire Knight, and I like the Giant Slayer procs more. Obviously, max HP is capped, so I get minimal returns from Flawless. So I think Giant Slayer is probably the best currently for Cold Heart. My Painkeeper is in a Toxic set. I use Painkeeper in my Bat Eater clan boss team with Fane. Total stats, speed tuned for that, and then try and get a bit of damage, but Painkeeper hits so weak. But the stats are basically built for the Bat Eater. I also use Painkeeper in the rare HP secret room, and she is very viable in Faction Wars. My second Cold Heart that I showed in my current auto comp is in a stun set. Use her in the rare attack secret room and in Dark Fae auto comp. Just over 200 speed, 70% crit, high crit damage, enough accuracy for Dark Fae, not required for Faction War 21 auto, but that is how I have mine built. Eventually, I'll finish leveling up Rian the Conjurer. I'd quite like to try her as a alternative champion in a few areas of the game. Might help people with a more accessible champion that has that buff strip. So that is something that's in my mind to do. But that is that for this video. Try and keep the scope focused really on faction war autocomp in this video. I could go off on so many tangents, particularly when we look at gearing of my champions, because most of the times when I gear a champion, it's for multiple areas of the game. I end up with quite hybrid builds that I try and reuse the same champions in many places. So sometimes the stats are quite different, or certain stats are a lot higher than are required for a given area that I'm showcasing. Anyway, that's all for this video. I hope that's been helpful. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Any feedback is always welcome. I try and respond to as many comments as possible. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.